So I'm just gonna take the lid off so you guys can see how it goes. Or maybe not. Welcome to Sunshine and Happiness. Today I'm going to be transforming a commonly used farm item into a really fun succulent container. If you ask me, anything can be used as a planter, so that's why when I spotted these in an attic clean out at my grandmother's, I knew they had to come home with me because I already had a vision for them. Join me for this satisfying before and after transformation, and hopefully it will inspire you to get creative with your planters as well. If you already plant succulents and other flowers in unique containers, tell me which one is your favorite. So if you're wondering what this is, it is a vintage chicken feeder, and while we do have our own chicken ladies, we already have them set up with the perfect feeding system. Tam is obsessed with this bucket feeder because it does cut down on waste. However, we love a good vintage piece to transform it and repurpose it to preserve its old memories while giving it a new story for the future as well. So I'm just going to take the lid off so you guys can see how it goes. A little tour of the vintage chicken feeder so you can get an idea how it was used. So you would have poured your feed into there and it would spill slowly out the bottom around this part where the chickens would peck and get the feed, and then you could refill up here in the top portion, and the lid would go back on like so. Today's project, we are going to be using my lovely mud room, which you may have seen us rebuild if you follow our blog at sunshineandhappiness.com, our very first article, Hello World. There's a lot in there about rebuilding this little room. So it wasn't my original plan, but this is going to be our repotting station and our filming space for the day. Typically, I would like to be outside in my garden with my potting bench, but we do have quite a bit of smoke and haze outside from the Canadian wildfires. It's much better today than it was yesterday, but I spent about an hour in the garden watering the newly planted seeds this morning, and my eyes and throat were burning a little bit after that. So we're gonna be in the mudroom. I'm probably gonna have a bit of a mess to clean up afterwards because I'm pretty messy at any project I do, and it's so much easier to just take the little brush and flick the excess dirt and leaves right into the grass outside, but that's not gonna be happening here. So stick around for the vacuum cleaner. Just kidding, I won't make you watch that. See there, just covered the bottom. It's not super thick because we still need some soil in there to retain some moisture and give the roots something to hold on to, but succulents are desert plants, so the more we can give it a space to dry out its roots, the better. Now we're gonna get some of the soil into there. I don't really do anything super special with my soil. It's a mixture of soil from our property, potting soil, some cactus mix and bark and things like that mixed in there to have a nice combination of everything. There's even some sand in there. They do have a pretty good little root ball with them, so we're not going to need a whole lot of soil. And I've learned the hard way through trial and error that if I fill it up and then I start organizing where I want my plants, suddenly I'm digging soil back out. Especially in a small space like this, it's going to be a lot more difficult to pour the soil out than get it back in. And again, I'm in the mudroom and I'm sure to make a disaster area in here, so I'm trying to cut down on that a little bit. I'm already feeling dirt drop on my feet, so good times. I still have a good inch in the bottom of this feeder portion to squish in those roots, and then we're going to try to backfill the soil around them as we go. I'm just going to put down a little bit of a base so we have something to work with, so I think we're going to leave it at that for now. Then we'll get to the fun part. It's always the fun part that gets me into trouble doing all of this work. I have a vision of the fun part in my head. Forget about all the other stuff that comes along with it. All right, so on to the beauties. These are a variety of all kinds of succulents. I choose them for their color so I can have a nice balance of lots of beautiful different colors playing off of each other. But as I'm going along with this journey, these overwinter in our mudroom, I'm learning there are certain varieties that don't do as well over winter. This is a variety that I have to be careful with. These are a little bit more sensitive to the watering. The thicker and juicier the leaves are, the more sensitive they are to the water, meaning they can be overwatered and underwatered. When they get underwatered, they kind of start to dimple, and it's really easy to tell that they need some more water. But the overwatering sort of creeps up on you, and the more water retention they have in their leaves, that's why these leaves are super juicy, the more sensitive they're going to be to freezing in the cold temperatures. So these guys I definitely let go dormant over the winter so that they don't freeze in my mudroom. So I'm really careful to stop watering them before I bring them in for the winter so they can dry out and they don't freeze if the temperatures dip too low. And if I do water them midwinter, I make sure we have a couple days in a row with really super mild temperatures. So again, it has time to dry out before that cold hits again. I have my picture here. We already figured out what we wanted it to look like, so I'm gonna try and stick with that plan. So, warning, this is an experiment. This is the first time that I have used or repurposed a vintage item this shallow for a succulent planter. I'm very excited about it, but I just wanted to make a point to tell you I am not an expert. I'm going to make every best effort to water very carefully, add the rocks and pebbles on the bottom to allow for some extra drainage, and just monitor the succulents very carefully over the summer to make sure I'm not overwatering them. We're going to see how it overwinters. We may decide to repurpose this again in the future. I think it's all going to work out. We're going to see how it goes together. All right, I think we got them all in place. I'm just going to give it a little spin to see if we need to like respace a little bit, try to evenly space them. I might fill in between each plant with some creeping sedum, which is a succulent that can survive our winters outside. It goes dormant and it comes back every single spring. Those are not so easy to bring inside the house, the creeping sedum, because it does well outside. It tends to get dried out in my mudroom, so if I put it in here now and bring this in the winter, either that creeping sedum will die and I'll just replace it the following year because it's very prolific, or I'll pull it out at the end of the season, throw it into the garden, and go back and get it again in the spring. So I'm going to plant these first and see how I feel, if I want to add some creeping stuff in between or just leave it like this. So here we go. I don't mind ripping some of those bottom roots off. It gives it a fresh start anyway. And then you can get it to the size you need it to and kind of mush it to get it into its place. These truly are not fragile, which is why they're one of my favorite plants. I have to tell you, I did not have a green thumb when I was younger, and succulents convinced me that I could keep things alive, and here we are. I really kind of smushed it out of a circle there to get it into the right place and to give it something to grab onto. It's tricky in these tight little spaces in the planter. All right, on to the next beauty. Now, if I lose any petals in the process of doing this, it is not the end of the world. In fact, it might be pretty fun because we can propagate each one of these petals into a new succulent. It's our first petal. All right, so you can see it right there. We're gonna propagate this into a whole new succulent. So that's a whole nother video that I will make for you guys very soon. Woo! Uh-oh, lost my man down. All right, 2 more to go. I'm just gonna dump these roots and soil right back in there. That's the kind of thing that I'm always adding back into my little potting soil spot to repurpose. Oh my gosh, she's looking super, super stinking cute. I think I am gonna go out to the garden and grab a couple of sprigs of the creeping sedum to add to sort of fill in a few of these gaps. I think it'll be adorable. So come along with me and we'll grab a few pieces. Just trimming some of this blue creeping sedum. They will grow their own roots pretty much anywhere, so as long as it has some base on it, it will grow a root. The tricky part is getting it to stay in place until it grabs onto the soil. A lot of times I will use a little stone to hold it where I want it to go. I have not done it before, but it just popped into my brain while I was talking to stake down these creeping sedums with a hairpin until they can take hold. Because this is such a small, shallow container, burying the bottom and staking them down with a rock is a little bit more difficult than if I had some more soil to work with. So I'm just sticking that over top of the roots into the soil to keep it in place. The roots will grab hold over time. I'm trailing the back end of the roots behind this other plant to anchor it some more and give it a place to grab hold so it can keep creeping forward. Ta-da! Yep, I definitely made a mess. All right, that's it. We did 2 feeder slash waterers in 2 days. It actually takes maybe 20 or so minutes to get everything planted. The trickiest part is working in that tiny space and backfilling some of the soil, but I am super in love with the end result. So if you have ever planted in anything unique, or if you wanted to but haven't taken the leap yet, I hope this inspires you to give it a try. But also tell me, what is your favorite unique planter that you've ever planted in? Right now it's my absolute favorite. They're just really cute. They're family heirlooms, so I'm really excited about that. Stay tuned to find out how they go throughout the summer and how they overwinter. Come along to the garden with me and we'll see where we're gonna put these babies. All right, you know I always forget to tell you, please give us a like and subscribe to Sunshine and Happiness if you loved watching this video and you want to see more like it. Suggest to a few friends if they're succulent lovers or lovers of repurposing some vintage items as well. Let's go to the garden now.